Alright guys, so it's just about that time we have a new tournament on the way. This weekend, HCS is going to be hosting their London event, which will be their second main event of this season before the finals in Atlanta. As you can see, I have all of the teams listed from each group here, so similar to how I did with Noblc, I'm going to be going through each group and sort of give my take on it. Only this time, I'm going to be taking things a step further and sketch out a fully fledged bracket. Just like last time, I'll have all team rosters listed in the description. Just a few things before we begin though. This is honestly something I should have done a long time ago, but I want to give a shout out to my guy Shyway. If you haven't seen his videos by chance, he does excellent analysis videos on many of the pro plays in the league. If you're itching for more HCS content, I highly recommend checking out his channel. I additionally want to give a shout out to my friend Kevin Kulix, a great source if you want to keep up with the news of what's going on across all Halos. But anyways, just like last time, we have some open bracket teams that are undefined for now. I took some time to figure out which team would land where based on pro points, given that they win every match in the open bracket, and this is what I came up with. Now, just a quick glance, there are definitely a few things that stand out to me. For one, that Group D, like literally that Group D. We're not only getting the Trifecta versus Reciprocity rematch, but we're also very likely to get the Elevate one as well, all in pool play. And for those of you who are wondering why Elevate is an open bracket team, there is basically a top 6 cutoff for NA teams traveling to London. Only the top 6 were granted a pro seed, and due to Elevate's top 8 finish at Noblc and Trifecta's 4th place finish, Elevate just missed the cutoff. Speaking of which, Elevate versus Trifecta, we're getting another Spartan versus RyaNoob matchup. And not to get people too excited, unfortunately the heat between them has simmered down over the last few months.
After the event, I took to Twitter and I said that, you know, they deserve that win. They played really well. Musa played out of his mind that tournament. I mean, he showed it in the next series against Reciprocity too, so. I'm not really necessarily looking for revenge. I kind of let all that go. Positive vibes from now on, you know?
Immediately following Noblc, Spartan made every attempt to completely avoid questions about the whole altercation and just wanted to focus on the positive. Although he did have this to say about things.
I'll say it, and I'll only say it once. Like, I don't agree with Ryan going across the stage and getting in my face after winning. Like, I wouldn't have done that. Like, yeah, I would have probably talked shit, but I wouldn't have done it like that. In retrospect, like, we lost, and they played better than we did. They deserve the win. It's as simple as that.
But what do I think of the overall group? Well, I definitely think that the deciding matches will be between Rec, Elevate, and Trifecta. No offense to mock it, they sort of got the unlucky draw in this scenario. In terms of Rec versus Trifecta, if we roll back to Noblc, there's actually a very interesting video that was posted by the Team Reciprocity YouTube account that gave sort of more insight into their final match.
Played a bunch of teams that we consider, like, no offense to these teams, but it was almost like matchmaking in a sense where we were just able to do what we wanted, freely win based off individual skill, not come out and have to play these top teams right away, and then all of a sudden we play a really top team.
RyaNoob's team was, you know, hot in the loser bracket, just tearing it up through like 2 or 3 matches from the early morning while we're still in bed getting breakfast. Then we get down here, we're warming up, but it's not the same.
All things considered, I think what we saw was a very cold Reciprocity against a blazing Trifecta. Snipedrone, who I always felt like is the biggest playmaker in Halo 5, you know, we really didn't see much from him at Noblc. And on the contrary, one player that definitely caught a lot of people's eyes last event, Musa, showed up big time. Shooter as well, he was also playing very well on Sunday. I think in order for Trifecta to replicate what they did last time, all of these factors will have to repeat, which, you know, I guess we'll have to wait and see. As a betting man though, as much as I'd like to see it, I think Reciprocity will take back the rematch. As for Elevate and Trifecta, you know, Elevate has been looking better on paper, you know, making many of the semifinals of the 2Ks and even once getting first. We actually saw back in Noblc, both of these teams actually played before in pool play, and Trifecta got the hot 3-0 from Elevate. So will it happen again? You know, it's tough to say. I'm going to be a little ballsy here. I will say that Trifecta will barely win this match. I think it's going to be another close one. Really looking out for my guy Musa to bring the heat. So with all that said, I'm checking out Reciprocity first, Trifecta second, Elevate third, and Market fourth. Moving on to Group C, won't lie, I was a bit underwhelmed by Lucid at Noblc. I definitely thought that they were going to be a lot better than how they performed. Renegades, on the contrary, I honestly think they have the potential to win it all. It just really depends on how they're playing. I think they played about on par from what I expected them to play at Noblc. They got very close to defeating Tox, and who knows, maybe they can actually beat them this time and we can get that Renegades versus Splyce matchup. The team I have coming out of the open bracket is an unnamed team. This information I got from my friend Musa. How long have these guys been playing together? No solid idea, but I do expect them with a roster like this to get at least here. I think their matchup against Atletico will kind of decide the third place position. Atletico didn't play too great at Noblc. They ended up getting top 16 after losing to Lux Gaming. You know, I feel like this match has the potential of being close, but I think that in the end, Rami's team will end up pulling things out. In terms of that team versus Lucid, I mean, Lucid is still the #1 European team. I don't expect anything less than top 2 for them in this group, really. For Group B, the big match that stands out for me is Tox versus Excelerate, which for you guys who are a bit out of the loop is the same Hitman roster from Noblc. Now, Excelerate have been progressing a lot since Noblc. I actually really think that they're the most improved team from the top 8-6 cusp. There is a bit of a rivalry between these two online. Scores have been extremely close in the 2Ks, with Tox just edging them out, and you know, now they have a chance for redemption. Will it happen here? I think it will at least go to map 5. But I would be crazy to doubt Tox in pool play. They've never really gotten any other place than first in this stage. Now, the other team we have confirmed for this group is Radiant eSports. Could be potential for an upset. This is Jimbo's team, which consists of the other half of Infused. Now, do these guys have a shot? I mean, I really think they're going to be aiming for second in this group. Their matchup against Excelerate will be their big one. I think it would have to be another cold Reciprocity / hot Trifecta type of situation, which by the odds, I would have to take Excelerate. The team coming out of Open, Sharp Rippin, has a bit of a different lineup this time. After a sort of disappointing top 12th finish, they sort of changed things up, to which I'll be honest, I sort of think their old lineup was a little bit better. Of course, no offense to the players, I just feel like this combination of players aren't meshing quite well, and the results are showing in the 2Ks. They are the underdog team of this tournament for sure, in my opinion. And you know, I think they have fuel in the tank to snag top 3 in this group. But as a betting man, I would have to go with Radiant. Finally, on to the last group, which really is the first group. We have Splyce, Outcold Gaming, Berserker eSports, and what I predict to be Polaris Gaming. Sort of an easy group for Splyce, I won't lie, which is interesting because they're essentially in Reciprocity shoes from last event. Like Snipedrone mentioned in that interview, they're sort of going to be going into bracket play after not having to play any of the top teams in the group, which, you know, could spell potential upset. Outcold is a second-seeded European team. A lot of names here you probably recognize. Really, it's going to be a battle for second in this group. And the team I think that's going to steal it is Berserker. I really think they played absolutely amazing at Noblc, and I'm really looking forward to what they have to bring at this tournament. They did have a bit of a team shift, dropping Bullet for Magico, so we'll have to see how that affects them in any way, although I don't think it will. The team I have making it out of pools is Polaris, which is primarily an EU team with the exception of Druck84, him being from America. Between them and Outcold, I would still give the advantage to Outcold. So we have our pool play teams. Of course, I could stop here, but I decided to take things a little further and draw out a whole mock bracket. Now, just like Noblc, the 3rd and 4th place teams are not eliminated here, so really anything goes for final placings. We have 2 sides of the bracket, the winners and losers side. If what I picked to result from pool play were to come true, this is what both would look like. Starting off with winners 1, I'm just going to be going through these matches a little quicker since we're really starting to reach into guessing territory. But I think that Splyce should have a fairly easy time with Lucid, you know, which, like I mentioned about Reciprocity and Noblc, may be somewhat of a bad scenario for them, not having to play any NA teams early before the semifinals. Prime example, Reciprocity versus Excelerate right beneath them. You know that match is going to be heated, and whichever team wins that, they will be on fire against Splyce. Speaking of which, I'll say this right now, I'm a Reciprocity fan. I want them to succeed, but I'm gonna say that Excelerate will pull off the upset here. It's just something about this team, this event. It just really screams Dark Horse to me. I can't entirely explain it. Next, we have Renegades versus Berserker. Both teams I'm actually a pretty big fan of. I still think it would be silly not to pick Renegades here. Tox, Trifecta in the past, RyaNoob's teams have never really fared well against the Tox Optic roster. So as on fire they could be, I sort of see this as being their wall. Down into the losers bracket, I'm just going to assume that all of the pool play 4th place teams will win their matches against the open bracket teams, which would move them into the top 16. Straight and Market, even though Straight has been a bit shaky, I'd still give it to them. Ramy's team versus Polaris could be an interesting one in the sense that we really don't know how solid of a roster this unnamed roster can be. I think in terms of raw talent that the unnamed team will take that. Elevate Radiant, sort of an unfortunate matchup for Radiant. Elevate, I just really see on another level. Outcold versus Athletico is more or less the same situation. I just see Outcold as being the better team. Moving down, Berserker versus Stray. I think that this matchup is huge for both teams to really prove themselves that they really deserve to be in the top 8. And I'm going to say that Berserker will take it. I may be completely overhyping this team here, but I think they proved a lot of people wrong at NOLA, and I think they're looking to do the same here as well. Trifecta and Ramy's team, I'd have to give the Trifecta. Lucid and Elevate, we're beginning to see more of a tightened skill gap for Elevate, but I still think they're on another level. Reciprocity and Outcold, I see more or less the same scenario. Moving up back to the winner's side, we have our semifinals matchups, where we have Splyce versus Excelerate and Renegades versus Tox. Now again, as I mentioned, Splyce might be a little cold going into this against a team like Excelerate or even possibly Reciprocity. Even still, I feel like a lot of people, myself included, doubted Splyce at NOLA, and I feel like it'll be close, but they'll end up taking it anyways. Renegades and Tox has the potential to go the distance again. For some reason, Tox is just that one team that Renegades just can't manage to get past. They got pretty close at NOLA last event in this same stage of the tournament, so maybe they might pull off that upset this time, which I really hope would happen, so we get the Splyce versus Renegades matchup, because I personally think their playstyles are very similar, and I think that would be a very fun match to watch. But just for the sake of what I think is likely to happen, I predict that Tox would take it this time as well. Now back into losers. Now this is where teams start playing for top 6. Any team losing here would achieve top 8, which in my eyes for some would be a pretty big success. Berserker versus Trifecta is going to be pushing it for Berserker eSports. I feel like it would be very tough if they want to win this one, which is why I have Trifecta moving on. Elevate and Reciprocity, sort of a pool play rematch similar to how we saw Trifecta and Elevate for top 6 at NOLA. Reciprocity is a monster team. I don't think that they'll make the same mistake twice. I have them moving on hereafter. For top 4, we have Excelerate against Trifecta and Renegades versus Reciprocity. Now, these two are completely unique matches. We've never seen them on LAN before, which would be pretty exciting to see. Excelerate and Trifecta is another pushing the envelope type of situation. I honestly think that Trifecta's main tournament lies in their pool play performance, which is pretty interesting to think about. As much as I love the guys in Trifecta, Excelerate, again, they're just beasts. I just see them taking this one. Now, Renegades versus Reciprocity, I think will be an amazing match. This is sort of where the Snipedrone versus Mikwin rivalry comes into play. A lot of hot snipers on each side. I expect a lot of highlights in the reel for this matchup. In the end, I may be a little biased here, but I think that Renegades will be able to pull it out. Now, in terms of these two teams facing each other, it's really a test of improvement. Last time these guys played, the matches were pretty close, but Renegades ended up winning 3-1. I do think it'll be even closer this time, but I still think that Renegades will pull it out. Now, in terms of the match we're all expecting, Tox versus Splyce. I have to give it to Splyce. They won the last 2K. They've won every single tournament this year. At this point, I'm sort of rooting for them to close out the year undefeated. I do think that Tox will meet them once again in the finals, but I think that if they want a shot at taking down Splyce, they'll have to do it in a winners finals. Taking 2 series off this team is just too difficult. But again, these are my predictions. Here are the final placings for my bracket. I won't be attending London, but I'll be watching along in the chat, so keep an eye out for me. You can follow my Twitter at your_proprietor or on my Snapchat if you want to chat in between matches. Other than that, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did, and I will catch you guys next time.